Keep in mind, and this is for like next week, next Wednesday, if you want to sign up for the CHS, you have to go through Aspire. You got through Wednesday of next week, the 12th, to take care of that. So if that's something you need to put on your to-do list, you want to do that. All right, so I'm in the classwork setting. So I got CHS registration, the FID materials, and then there are common websites. Come here to the common website area, and everyone's favorite website is number 1 on the list, NoodleTools. So under common websites in the classwork setting, you're going to NoodleTools. You click on NoodleTools. There's the link. Boom. It's going to take you there.
Wait, where is? I don't see the common websites.
Are you in classwork?
I am.
Slide down. CHS registration, FID material, common websites.
I wasn't. Like I clicked on classwork, but it never switched. I guess.
So in NoodleTools, you're going to log in. Your login is not the login that you use for the computer. The login, and those of you that are seniors may remember this. I don't remember juniors when we did the switch. Your login, it was like your, first 3 of your first name, first 4 of your last name, like graduation year, 4 of your last. So if we were Brady, we'd be like Smith, Bra 21. Kind of thing. Your password, unless you have changed it, would be NHSD, NHSD. All right?
Can I put this in my notes?
Once you log in, it's probably going to ask you for another password. I'll let you know what that is, but I want to get everyone to be able to sign in first. So if I'm Dan, I would be Ross, Dan, 21. Well, your username you should not have changed. Your password should just be NHSD, NHSD, unless you change.
No. Can you
Well,
say what it's first?
So your first 4 of your last, first 3 of your first, graduation year. If you forgot your password, and I can't reset it, but if you forgot your password, there is the I forgot my password option. What that's going to ask you then for is going to be your personal ID, which would be first 4 of last name, first 3, and then it's going to ask you for the last 4 digits of your home phone number because that was taken from Power School stuff with your account. So whatever your last 4 digits of your home phone number would then be the key to retrieving your password. Well, whatever the number would be on file, whether it's home phone or mom's cell phone or whatever the case may be.
Do we have to put in the school library?
Yes, we're not there yet.
So I don't know it, so I'm not getting it. That's stupid.
Then you're going to register. Anyone other than Avery not in? All right. Once you have hit sign in, then a lot of you're probably getting where it's asking you for like a library code, password, all that kind of stuff. That, if it's asking you, is going to be NHLIB for both areas. And then it's going to ask you to enter in your graduation year and all that stuff. It's revalidating your account. That simply just means that you haven't logged in quite some time. Yeah. Yeah, you could. Unless at some point, if the school decides no longer to have it, then you'll be out of luck. But
we should make it longer so we can use it in college.
You could, yeah.
Making it till 2030.
Wait, so if it says expected your
I don't know
graduation
how long
actually
I'm
be
going
You could, yep.
2037.
Hey, look at all my stuff. How informative essay.
I'll find out the Western France.
Period 6. English final 9.
So you're in now?
No, I'm registered.
Oh, okay. And then once you get in, we're going to create a project. Actually, we're going to create 2 projects. Nope. Is it letting you register?
Yeah, I registered.
Okay, so you're good? All right, so once we get in, so everyone's here? Yay. All right, so up at the top of the page says new project. Go in new project on that green little button. Let's type in just like CHS arg or argumentation, whatever, but CHS arg. You are going MLA and you are going advanced. So CHS arg, MLA, advanced. You probably will in college. Depends on disciplines. English tends to be MLA. A lot of times social studies, even some education things tend to be APA. It'll vary. It's just a different way of citing. It's just a different format. APA would be ones that do like footnotes and things like that. So yeah, the nice thing, the reason to keep your subscription longer is, especially when you get into college, you can use the APA. So once you get in here, you're at your dashboard. Now here is the big thing that you want to make sure you do. It's not going to work on my end because of me being the teacher profile, but where you have this middle section, you got project details and then sharing and collaboration. In this sharing and collaboration, you want to share with a project inbox. When you go to share with project inbox, if you just start to type in CHS, I think you'll get CHS argumentation, then it'll say like spring 2020 will start to automatically show up. So you're going to click on that CHS argumentation spring 2020, type in your name, and then you're just going to hit done. What you're doing is you are sharing your folder with me. So as you add sources to your folder, I can see what your sources are. So share with project inbox, start typing in CHS, you put in your name, be good to go. Now when I go to my projects, I can switch over to inbox, and oh look, you guys are just blowing through this. Yay. Ave Pete.
Say my entire last name fits in.
That's so exciting.
Once in a while,
Did we get yours?
So
It'll be what?
And all the kids made fun of me.
Yep, now I think I'd have yours now, Ellen, because there's 10 of us in here, I believe. All right, what we're also now going to do, and this can get a little kind of confusing, I'm going to go back to projects. I'm going to create another project. So going back to projects, create a new project. So you already have the CHS arg. Create a new project. And for this one, I would just call it Pop Culture Spars. And then do the same thing, MLA Advanced. You don't need to share this one with me. So you would then just hit submit, and then at this point you would have two projects. Here's the reason for having two projects. As you find your sources for your pop culture spar debate, you just want to put them in the pop culture spar folder. Once you have all your sources in there, we can then copy those sources over into the CHS argumentation folder. I think it's better for you to have separate folders for each project because when we have to do like a works cited page or whatnot, you don't have to worry about highlighting or deleting or moving sources around. But you do want to make sure that as you get sources, and I'll show this to you, in the upcoming weeks, that as you have them in your pop culture spar, you slide them over into the CHS argumentation. By the end of the semester, remember, you have to have 50 sources in the CHS argumentation folder. You don't have to print out a works cited page for me. You don't have to like share a Google Doc with me because I can literally just go into the inbox and be like, ooh, who do we have here in spring? Ooh, well, first one on the list, there's Ave Pete. I click on it. You have no sources. You get a 0. Shame on you. But that way I can keep track of sources. Halfway through the semester, maybe a third of the way, I'll be like, so Grant, just so you know, I have like one source for you. And you can be like, yeah, I know. I need to like share them or I need to work on them. I don't do checks where you get points periodically throughout the semester. The only time you get points is at the very end of the semester or about a week before it's over. But, I'll certainly let you know, hey, you have a lot of sources. Good job. Or, what are you doing, Ellie? there's nothing here. No, so for the whole semester, you have yes. So there's going to be a lot of projects that would start coming in, and all of those sources will get funneled into this CHS argumentation. Now, knowing though that you have pop culture spar debates, that you have 4 topics, that you would have 8 arguments total, what would be a good number of sources to kind of like aim for? You know, maybe 16 or 24. 24, honestly, will probably end up being a little high. You know, I don't know if I mean, you very well still may. If you went with that high number, say you got 24 sources for the pop culture spar debates, you're literally, you know, just shy of it. But yeah, you're basically halfway at that point. If you go with 16, which is probably more reasonable for or realistic for what we would do, that's still roughly a third of the way through. So with like this one assignment, you know, the hope would be, yeah, you're 33, 40% of the way there. There'll be some projects coming up where you probably will get 20 sources coming in. It doesn't mean, I'll get to your question, if it makes it into the folder, it doesn't mean you're using it in a speech. So it's not that Dan's going to have to delete all those sources that he didn't get to use in a speech. If it's a source that you considered, it goes into the project. No, in the sense you can't stop citing stuff, like because probably you'll have to turn in a works cited page later on, but you're not getting, bless you, you're not getting bonus points, you know, for having 54, 63, or something along that.
Because this sport debate we're not doing bonus,
Correct.
So like, if we do another sport debate, we're not having to do that.
What would happen is you would probably still create a new folder, but you wouldn't worry about copying those sources over once you hit that 50 in that main. The thing that generally causes the most problem for people is they don't keep this updated. You know, keep it updated. So if you're a second semester senior and you think senioritis is already kicking in, wait till April and May. You're really not going to feel like putting sources into your NoodleTools project at that point. So it would certainly be to your best interest to kind of keep it up, you know, as you're working through it. All right. So basically, you always want to keep this open while we're working on, you know, looking at some databases and things like that. So I'd make sure you're in projects. I would be in CHS argument, or not, excuse me, not your CHS argumentation. I'd be in your pop culture spar project. And then we can slide over to where the sources are, and you can see that right now you have absolutely 0 sources. How unfortunate. All right. So sliding back over here to Google Classroom, I'm still in the common website area. Now, these are not the only websites that you are allowed to use, but they're good places to kind of start for a lot of the things that we would have. The second little area I have under there is NH Library databases. What I did not add, shame on me, is the passwords. So I'm going to do that right now. Save. Probably won't need this too much when you're at school, although sometimes you will. But so where the library stuff is, I also have a Google Doc then that's going to take you to the passwords. This would be something to kind of keep handy, especially when you're at home. And this is where most of that LupSwag username and password stuff comes in. That is everyone's favorite username. I want to make sure this one's the updated. That's a password.
I remember learning LupSwag.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I thought I
Doing the information
It's a beautiful word, is what it is.
What
All
does
right,
it
so I'm
stand
going
for?
library.
I didn't know more.
What does it stand for?
It's a password. All right, so I'm in the library. This area down here at the bottom is usually the places that folks are going to go most often. There is the Gale. What people tend to really like for Gale is opposing viewpoints. And then when it comes to like SIRS and whatnot, ProQuest SIRS ends up being pretty popular. Some folks will take a look at things that are like the facts on file with issues and controversy. You can certainly take a look at if you want. If you end up looking at anything court case wise, and this could be, you know, for here or when you go into college, LexisNexis is really where you want to go for like court cases. So if you have to do something on Supreme Court, you know, New Jersey versus TLO 1985 or something like that, LexisNexis is where you want to go for that kind of stuff because it has all the documentations and whatnot. Let's just go to opposing viewpoints. So I'm clicking on the yin yang sign. Does anyone have to put in a password, or is that working for everyone? Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. So since it's Gale, opposing viewpoints, that would be the one where you're using the Lupswag. SIRS, the ProQuest one, that's the one where it's the PL2591H and then that password being Lupswag. All right, so Gale and context, opposing viewpoints. Here's the nice thing about this. It has opposing viewpoints. So you certainly can get some things when it comes to pro and con. They have issues broken up, into different kind of categories, and these things could certainly kind of vary from time to time. Health, medicine, business, economics, all that kind of stuff. If you go to the browse issues, it should then give you a full list of stuff that you can take a look at. So for us, technology was like one that we were looking at, personal devices, technology and society, technology and education. I'm going to click technology and education just to see what's kind of there. And I'll get, kind of overview things. I know a lot of you have used, these things before, but I just want to kind of touch base on a few things. When you get viewpoints, you're certainly going to have something that is going to be getting a specific argument coming across, and then this is breaking down into different kinds of categories, whether it be your journals, your newspapers, videos, and all of that kind of stuff. Featured viewpoints are going to certainly give you ideas as to why this could be good or this may not end up being too good. I don't want to look at statistics. Featured viewpoints. You can learn everything online except for the things you can. We'll click on this one just to see what's there. All right, so I then get a little bit of an article commentary that's going to go on, and then it's going to kind of jump into the specific viewpoint. Say this is something that I really like. What do I need to do with it? I need to cite it. How do I cite this? There is a source citation right there. So what I would do, and I mean, you can do this just to kind of get the hang of it, but then like delete the source unless Kira decides that she's going to use this. But all you do is you highlight the source and you copy it. And then I'm going to go back into NoodleTools. I'm going to go to News Source. I'm going to click Database, and I'm going to cheat because I'm just going to click Journal, because it really doesn't matter what I'm selecting. What I'm going to do then here, and they updated this last semester, so it might look a little bit different than the last time you did it. Since I did a copy and paste, over here I have quick cite, copy and paste a citation, and I go click into that field. Now what I simply do is I paste in what my source information was. So I'm not manually entering in author, title, and all that kind of stuff. The nice thing, honestly, about using the databases that most people like, it's a heck of a lot easier to cite than it is going through a lot of other things. So I have my citation. The only thing I would need to add is going to be, actually I don't need to add it because I already have the copyright date. What you do need to have, though, and this is where people will sometimes forget, and they get really upset if it's the first week of May and this is due, or the second week of May and they haven't done anything yet. I want you to do annotations. I'm not worried about source numbers or anything, but I want you to give me 2 sentences. Sentence number 1 is going to be what the assignment is. So this is for my pop culture or popple spar debate. And then number 2, what is the main reason that I am considering this source? So this source provides information about daily screen time for adolescents. Obviously, I'm making this up because I haven't read the article yet at that point. You are getting half a point for having the source. You're getting half a point for having the annotation. And so when it's total, that's where you get your 50 sources. So Brady has 50 sources, 0 annotations. He's getting a 25 out of 50 as one of his final grades for the semester. He won't do that. If you have, 50 sources and 40 annotations, then you'd be taking a look at probably getting 45 points, okay, for it. Assuming that, your annotation is complete, that it doesn't simply say pop culture, info, and that being the annotation. So when it's all said and done, I hit save, and then I'm going back to my sources, and boom, it's right there. Here's a nice thing to understand. I'm looking up sources today. I want to go back and view them tomorrow. I view live web page. It will take me right back to that source. So that's a nice thing with also using the databases. When I copy and paste it in, it's almost like a bookmark for how that source is going to work. So any kind of source that you're looking at through the district library, SIRS does the same thing. They'll have those copy and paste features that you can use. Sources that you cannot use. Any guesses?
Wikipedia.
Good. Why?
Because it's Wikipedia.
I don't have any problems with Wikipedia so far as reliability. Is it all perfect? No. Okay. Neither are all of these. The problem that I have with it is really what kind of source is it? It's a secondary source. Okay, so I'm getting stuff that's an overview. So the same thing would hold true for if you're going like Britannica Online, you know, kind of thing, like an online Britannica. I don't want you using that. I don't want you using a secondary source. Might you go to Wikipedia to get an overview of some things? Absolutely. What could you also potentially use from Wikipedia?
Their sources.
The sources that are down at the bottom of the page, that could be a little bit of a gateway for you to use, okay, and locate those as primary sources. So I am perfectly fine. I'm not going to flip out, Meredith, get off Wikipedia now. You know, she can be on there, and you could be getting background information. You could be getting additional sources. That's fine. If you do find independent website sources, do understand that you're going to have to do a little bit more work for NoodleTools because you're going to have to put in the author, the title, and all of that kind of stuff. If you find an online source and you don't have a publication date, you don't have a title, and you don't have an author, you're probably better off getting out of there and going someplace else. If there's some kind of statistic that you like that comes from such a source, chances are you can probably find it someplace else. If you find, you know, Grant's blog about stuff, don't use that source. You know, I don't want you to go to a blog or that kind of personal webpage. But again, if he's referencing some kind of information that he got from another place, you can go to that direct source. So it's not an attack on Wikipedia. It's just I want you to get the primary sources that it's coming from. The most common way, aside from not having it done, that people lose points within their NoodleTool project would be they use Wikipedia because they just simply forget as a source, or they double up on multiple sources and they forgot. Because if you copy and paste the citation in twice, it'll create that source twice. But I'm going to look at it and go, you already used that source, you can't use it again, kind of thing. Or they'll do an online source, and your citation will just say www. You know, whatever.com, and that's the source. Just make sure you go through all the steps for it. All right? Any questions about that? It's not bad. The nice thing again is you get that view, you have that live kind of bookmark that's going on that ends up being pretty useful for a lot of finding your sites again. Also, if you signed into Chrome, your password that you had to recreate or you had to remember will carry from computer to computer to computer as long as you're signed into Chrome, you know, on computer at home or within the library. All right. A couple other things under here on the common websites that I thought would be good for you to take a look at. So there's the library one, which we already did. Again, the databases are there for you. The passwords are there for you that you can use. I was trying to, never mind. I have this one here where it says all sides, balanced news. If I click on that one, it's literally just a website. It would be like going to CNN or Fox News or USA Today. But what they do, and they certainly have, you know, the current news that's going on, they have an emphasis here on media bias. So there'll be a headline going on, and you notice for each of the headlines, they will have from the left, from the center, from the right. So if you're taking a look at bias or you want to be aware of some bias, this is a good source to kind of take a look at to get something that is going to be objective. Or if you want to see the variety as to the way the headlines are being used, it also will show you that. They have their own kind of media bias area.
The trades fair will continue into fourth period. If you have been assigned to attend the trades fair or signed up, please proceed to the library at that time. Teachers, you are welcome to bring your classes during period 4, 5, and 6 if it would be your curriculum. Thank you.
where they show you the degrees of being to the left, being to the right, and being in the middle. So if you tend to get a lot of stuff coming from Wall Street, USA Today, NPR, chances are it's being pretty much in the middle. Where it's no surprise to us if you're going to be taking a look at something from CNN, especially opinion, and something from Fox News opinion, they're going to be on pretty opposite sides of the spectrum. We don't really have a political debate, going on within the SPAR, but it could be useful for some other things just to kind of recognize, okay, where do people tend to fall? And this can be pretty useful to take a look at. They do also have topics. So they have the current news, but then they also have some topics and issues that you can take a look at, and the ability to do some search and whatnot, that there could be some ideas in here that you want to take a look at. So like technology, education, that could be an area where you end up kind of blending some things in or whatnot. So if we were to go, you go here to the media bias, right, you said right tends to be, yes, more conservative. So we kind of think like right Republican. And then when you get to the left, more liberal. So, it doesn't always necessarily mean Democrat, Republican, but yeah, more liberal over here on the left, more conservative here on the right. So, and that's the nice thing about kind of taking a look at the news where, there could be something, going on with, obviously President Trump and whatnot. If you have something from the left, the way that headline is going to be phrased is very different from how it is going to be from the right. I don't care. I'm not worried necessarily about where you're getting information from, but it is important to recognize, could there be any kind of biases that would be taking place that could be impacting the way that information is getting delivered? So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. Later on, we'll do an article analysis where you take an article and you analyze how that argument is coming from. This is a good place to kind of locate some articles because you kind of know then what is that innate bias that is going to be there or is not going to be there. All right. So we'll stop there since we got like 3-4 minutes left. If you're not here tomorrow, we're going to continue to take a look at things like with procon.org, international debate, the educational website and whatnot for it. But basically, it's just going to kind of go through, show some different databases that you can use. Of the databases, the library is the easiest one when it comes to citing, but that certainly doesn't mean that that's the only one that you have to use. You can certainly use Google search engine and things of that nature. I'm okay with that. What you don't want to do, though, is forget that the best resource that you can use is the one that's attached to your neck. All right. So if anything, kind of come up with some topics of your own as to why you think personal devices have greatly improved our lives or have not. And then as you kind of narrow in on those topics, you can do research on specific aspects, whether it be sleep deprivation, blue screen, access to information and whatnot, as opposed to typing into Google, have personal devices improved our quality of life. Awareness of mental health has significantly improved our lives. You're better off coming up with your own reasons first and then doing a little bit more research on those reasons as opposed to the overall general topic. All right. Monday, if you're not here, logical fallacies. But then pretty much all next week, it's you getting information for your SPAR debates. A lot of people come in with the mindset of, I'll do my first topic on Monday, my second topic on Tuesday, the third resolution on Wednesday. It probably won't be that easy. So, anticipate that, yeah, certainly you can use class time, but you'll probably be doing some stuff outside of class as well.
Are we done talking about all that right now? Is that a question?
Well, does anyone have any questions about all that? Yes, so I'll post them on here, and then when I pass out the rubric on Monday, I'll have them on there, but I'll definitely post them to Google Classroom later today, probably during like 6th period.